Hello and welcome to Hysteria. I'm Erin Ryan.
And I'm Alyssa Mastromonaco.
Okay, there's a lot of real shit happening all over the world. Like, it turns out there's a global network of countries, and including some American states, that are tax havens for mega wealthy people who are possibly, cheating the system. There's that, the Pandora Papers came out and everyone was sort of like, yep, okay. And then it also turns out that in France, the priesthood was essentially a pedophile club for decades. And the French are like, no, that's too, look, Catholic Church, tone down what you're doing. So, it's bad. Those things are going on. Those things are going on in a real way. And it is horrible. And I wish that that's what people were talking about. But instead we're talking about Kirsten Sinema using the bathroom and people being mean to her there.
No, look, as someone with IBS, I would never want anyone following me into the bathroom, but girls got bigger problems.
Yeah, I feel like look, if we're just talking about, we're not going to go deep into this, but if we're talking about cumulative harm that is done, the cumulative harm of going into the bathroom to bother somebody, which isn't nice, is much dwarfed by the cumulative harm of blocking aid for millions and millions of American families because you are being paid off by a corporation. I'm just going to say, as a utilitarian, one of those evils is much, much greater than the other evil. Let's move on from there. So here's a good thing that happened this week. The Biden administration officially ended a ban on abortion referrals at federally funded clinics. So that was what was known as a gag order that withheld family planning money from places that even mentioned abortion. Alyssa, can you go into a little bit more of what this means and, what it will mean for people who need these services?
Well, so one, we're so glad about this. It is officially referred to as Title X. And the problem with the fact that these clinics couldn't mention abortion is that if you're a clinic, you probably want to give people all their options. So these clinics provide things like wellness exams, life-saving cervical and breast cancer screenings, birth control, contraception education, and they test for sexually transmitted diseases and HIV. So we are really glad that these clinics can now do all the things that they are supposed to do, which is give people who go to them all of the healthcare, reproductive care, and information they need to make decisions about their lives.
Mm-hmm. Here's something that always bothered me about things like gag rules and mandatory speeches that doctors have to give to women who are seeking abortions, or anybody with a uterus seeking an abortion. Isn't that a violation of the doctor's free speech to force them to give less than ideal?
I don't understand this. Yes.
It's not even just look, it's forcing them to omit things. It's forcing them to give information that isn't in the patient's best interest. That seems like a First Amendment violation to me.
It does. And, the other thing, too, is that most of the Title X grants typically go to clinics that are run by state and local health departments. In 2017, there were some statistics. 21% of patients in the Title X program were identified as Black or African American, and 33% identified as Hispanic or Latino. This affected transgendered people. I'm glad. I'm kind of why didn't they do it a little sooner? But so glad that they did it.
Yeah. Look, I'm not the president and I never will be the president. But if I were, and I were coming in on the heels of a Republican administration, rolling back a Title X gag rule would be the first thing I did.
Yeah. But thank you for doing it.
Yes. Thank you. Delayed. Thank you. I know you had other things to worry about, Biden administration, but thank you for doing it regardless. Okay. We have a really exciting conversation with an actual teen, which is fun. So I want to get to that. But before we do that, I think we have two toasts this week. We're going to be positive before we get into the negativity.
Super positive. So I will do the first one.
Okay.
Because I know last week you guys, I was so excited about Fat Bear Week. And I rolled the dice. I saw Holly going all the way to the end of my bracket. She got knocked out in the first round. But Erin, your faux boy, Otis, made it to the end. He was your bracket. You are the champion. And may he sleep or hibernate a wonderful winter full of salmon in his belly.
I picked Otis because I think Otis is a great name for a fat bear. And
he's a chonk.
I loved his attitude. I loved his general vibe. I think Holly is great. Holly has been a real hero, and she's a super mom of a bear. But Otis gaining all that weight is just really inspiring to me, and I feel validated and vindicated by the fact that my choice for Fat Bear won.
We need to take our wins where we can get them.
I know. I should have made a bet. I should have placed a bet. It's whatever. We were just watching the episode of What We Do in the Shadows yesterday where they go to Atlantic City. And I was like, gosh, I'm glad that neither of us like to gamble. But maybe I should like to gamble.
No,
there's other things to do that are better. Okay, second toast. Everyone who listens to this show, for more than a couple episodes of this show, knows that we really are big fans of LeVar Burton here. We both have just deep affection for everything that he's done for literacy among children. He made me love the library. He made me love going to the library and get really excited about buying my my niece and nephew's books for Christmas every year. Can't wait to buy cute library books for my my forthcoming child. I'm going to force them to listen to me read to them. LeVar Burton is just a great positive presence in American culture, and he was just named the Grand Marshal of the 2022 Rose Bowl Parade in Pasadena, California, which is a great honor, and he totally deserves it, and I'm so excited for him. I hope that he continues to be this sort of a Dolly Parton type figure, just beloved across all ideologies in the U.S.
Let me tell you, when his vaccine comes out, I will be first in line.
Oh, 100%, the LeVar vaccine. But I'm really excited for him.
I'm so excited. I'm even wearing a Rose Bowl sweatshirt today.
But you didn't know.
I didn't even know.
You didn't. You must have sensed the vibes. You were it's something with the Rose Bowl and positivity, and it must have been something.
It's amazing. We're so excited. I can't wait to watch the parade.
Me neither. And I'm not going to be watching the game because college football at this point bores me. And I encourage people to fight me on that. But
you've gone big time. I mean, look, Wisconsin's not having a great year, but my husband's Penn State, and so maybe one of us will do pretty well.
I just Notre Dame football makes me want to just lie face down on a dirty floor. So I'm skipping it. I'm paying attention to other sports. Alyssa, you know how much I love astrology. I don't love astrology.
We only like to use Mercury in retrograde as an excuse for fucking stupid shit.
Yes, but here's the thing. I live in California, and you absorb astrology. It just goes into your pores. You just have to learn about it. Otherwise, they kick you out of the state. It's like having a car that has really bad emissions. You just aren't allowed in California unless you understand astrology. Okay, so it has been a bad Mercury retrograde for Facebook. That lead you will never see in a business section, but I would like to point out that economic forecasting is basically astrology for dudes. So we're just going to go with that. So no, seriously, it's been a really bad week for Facebook. There was a report from the Wall Street Journal that revealed internal documents about Facebook sort of having all of these problems that were being either downplayed or unaddressed, but Facebook was aware of them. Facebook contributes to human trafficking in the Middle East, and there's very little being done about that. Facebook has contributed to war and genocide, political misinformation. It has contributed to a rightward shift and a more extreme shift in politics globally, and Facebook knew about this. So I want to say full disclosure before we get into this story that I write a newsletter that is posted on a Facebook platform. Facebook is ubiquitous. It is impossible to get away from. But, just because I post a newsletter on a Facebook platform, that doesn't mean I can't talk about it when it's in the news. So we're going to talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
What was the thing from the report that you found to be the most disturbing, Alyssa?
Oh, I mean, there was so much. But one of the things I thought was the most repellent was that Facebook has been studying the effects of Instagram on teen girls for the last 3 years, and they know shit like the fact that among teens who reported suicidal thoughts, 6% traced their desire to kill themselves back to Instagram.
Ugh. Do you ever look at social media like Facebook and Instagram, to a lesser extent Snapchat and TikTok, and think, holy fuck, did I get lucky that was not around when I was a kid?
I mean, the fact that I at least could just like go home and escape school, or at least just use the fucking ported phone, the wall-mounted phone to call my friend, I think definitely was good. I can't imagine, but that's because I'm old.
Yeah, Facebook came out my junior year of college, and we called it the Facebook at the time, and you couldn't put like more than one picture up. And we took pictures of each other with digital cameras. Like our phones didn't have cameras in them. We brought
email came out my freshman year of college.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, and you got your acceptance letter via Pony Express.
I did.
This week also, another thing that happened for Facebook is the source of these documents to the Wall Street Journal was a former Facebook employee, a whistleblower named Frances Hagen, who testified before the Senate this week about the effects of Facebook's continued non-addressing of issues that it knows that it's causing. And it was kind of a blockbuster. It was a blockbuster morning of her testifying to things that I think a lot of us kind of had an inkling about.
Yeah.
So, we can talk, there's a lot of things we can talk about here, a lot of things to unpack. But one of the things, like you said, Alyssa, that we wanted to get into was the effect of Instagram on people's minds and the effect of Instagram on people's self-esteem and social lives, and especially people in groups that are the most vulnerable to influence by Facebook and Instagram. So we found a real-life teenager. We found one.
In the wild.
We found a real life teenager. No, we wanted to talk to somebody who has like a personal experience growing up with Facebook and Instagram. So today we are joined by Elliott Stephanopoulos. She's a freshman at Brown University. Elliott, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad that you're here. So we'll start kind of with basics. How old were you when you first signed up for Instagram? And do you remember the first thing you saw on Instagram that made you feel bad?
I probably first got Instagram like when I was 13 or 14. No, honestly, maybe younger than that. But I remember I was really pissed off because when I got it, I had waited so long. I think it was 13 because that was like the requirement at the time to have an Instagram. And my little sister, she was 10 at the time. And because I got one, she got one. And I was like, that is so unfair. I remember like Instagram at the beginning, like my sister and I would post like cupcake recipes. It was very fun. I don't really remember the first time it made me feel bad, but I always liked Pinterest, has always been my favorite form of social media because like my friends don't really follow me, and it's about sharing photos, but not necessarily your own, and just curating them. So I always found Pinterest to be a little better in that category of like the sharing images part. But I definitely think as I've gotten older, Instagram has like impacted me negatively more, just because I've sort of had the app till like basically when it came out, and I've sort of evolved with it. Like I've been a teenager through the whole time that like Instagram has really been used.
Mm-hmm. And because you're a teenager, I mean, being a teenager, no matter how cool you are, is like awkward. Do you ever scroll back through things that you posted and think like, oh my God?
Oh my God, all the time. I am very lucky that my parents instilled the fear of God in me about social media. And we're like, if you post this, you're not going to get into college. And I was always really scared of that. So I never posted anything bad. So if I ever get canceled, it's not because I'm not going to get canceled. I'm sure of that. But
famous last words, Elliott.
I'm sorry, but knock on wood. But like, I was always very aware of Instagram. I was like, never post anything that could be like, there's even like a beer bottle in the back that's my dad's. I'm not going to post it. Like, I was always very aware of that, which I was lucky about. And when I was younger, like now I'm 18, so it's a little bit, I'm 19, oh my God, which is a little bit harder for my parents to control. But when I was younger, I was like not allowed to post bikini photos. Not because my mom didn't want me like being confident in my body, but because even if my Instagram was private, there's always hackers and child predators and just sort of feeding into that. So I was always very aware of that aspect of Instagram. So I think I was lucky that I had parents who were like, keep it fun and photos of your friends instead of making it something else. So that definitely impacted my experience, because I think if I hadn't had that, I'd probably post a lot more things I would be embarrassed of. But the stuff I'm embarrassed of are like photos that I go way back, which I've already deleted, but they're like me with the new Kylie Jenner lipstick when they just came out like 5 years ago. And I was like, which color do you guys like more? Or another one where I did like goth makeup and I was like, I'm going to scare my dad because I'm doing really dark eyeliner. Like, it was so stupid.
So Elliott, here's the thing. So you're very careful about what you post. Are you very careful about who you follow? Like, have you curated the people who you follow? Are there people who you've unfollowed because they made you feel shitty, or they tried to tell you something about yourself that you were like, I know that's not true?
I wouldn't say curate, because there's a big, I'm not sure if you guys know about this, but there's a big thing with my age group called like ratio. So it's like you want to have the same amount of followers as the number of people you follow. And I never cared about that because I always wanted to follow people, because I was like, oh, because even if I didn't know them, I wanted to follow them. Some of my friends are very like, Instagram is just to follow my friends and people I know, and I respect that. But I'm like, I want to see what Gigi Hadid's posting, so I'm going to follow her. I can't think of someone I unfollowed because I felt bad, but I definitely reality check with a few of these Instagram accounts that just like expose photoshopping. Because sometimes I'll be like, oh my God, I've been doing her YouTube workout routine for 3 weeks. What the hell? I don't look like her. And then you see that like there's photoshopping, you can Photoshop videos. So for my friends and I, we can like have fun and appreciate it, but know when to reality check. It was something this summer, my friend and I were feeling really insecure, and we looked at that account and we kind of felt better. Because we were like, we don't Photoshop our photos, but if we did, it would look the same.
When you were in high school, did you ever know anyone who was bullied on Instagram, or people who were targeted or harassed?
Pretty much all my friends until they were 18 had private Instagram accounts. I mean, there's definitely like, I get a lot of creepy requests. I'm private, but I get like creepy DM requests that I have to go through, and sometimes my dad has to deal with. And I feel like that with my friends, it's a lot of like weird old dudes being like $5,000 for photos of your butt, and you're like, have to block them. So I wouldn't say directly targeted or like bullied on social media, but I would say the main like targeted aspect is by like older men who find young girls on Instagram.
And your sister was on it when she was 10, which is like, you know, in technically in violation of the user agreement. Yeah. But I thought
don't oopsies.
Yeah, I mean, but nobody. But there's so many people who just like don't. The fact that you were 13 when you were on it the first time kind of makes you an outlier. Like, a lot of people are getting on Instagram when they're like under the technical lowest age.
Like, my mom has friends who have babies and they have Instagram accounts. Obviously, I don't use it, but like they have the handle. And it's cute because I get to see my friends' babies, but it's also like, oh my God, they have like an existence on the internet, even if it's private.
Yeah, that is weird. And it's sort of like inescapable at this point. You know, like, it doesn't really matter if you try to go totally off grid. If you socialize with anybody who is connected on the internet, you're going to be on there. So a problem specific to Instagram is so-called social comparison, which is assessing your value in relation to the attractiveness, wealth, success of other people. Do you ever experience that? Or does the fact that you grew up with Instagram being such a part of your life, do you have like a savviness about it that I think other people who didn't grow up with it have?
This is one thing where my mom and I experience Instagram differently, where, I mean, she also has a public account, but she gets like very absorbed in the hate comments and will like look at them and read them. I'm like, why do you do this? Whereas because I've grown up with Instagram and get like creepy guys DMing me, and also like with my dad in politics and during Donald Trump, like it was very divisive. And so it was very easy for me to get tagged and stuff and be like delete, or like get commented on something and be delete, where I feel like it's a little bit harder for my parents to do that because they're not used to getting that criticism so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a generational gap I've noticed.
So you think that Instagram is like unhealthy for adults in addition to being like unhealthy for teens?
Yeah.
Like it sounds like that's been your observation.
I think the problem I've always had with Instagram, and this is just me personally, more than like body comparison or more than body comparison at least, it was like this feeling of being excluded. And I think that's also something my parents experience on social media, because their friends will post a photo at the dinner and they're like, oh man, why weren't we invited? And that's sort of been my whole existence, is because I've had it like all my middle school, high school, and college life is, oh, someone posted from a birthday party and you weren't invited. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of where I feel the most like sting from Instagram. And I guess when I think about like my youngest memories of being hurt by Instagram, it was stuff like that, like girls posting at a birthday party that I wasn't invited to and being like, oh my God, their costumes look so cute. Or like a Halloween party that you weren't invited to. That's where I found it the most damaging. And I think, I don't know, I guess savviness, like I'm able to like extract myself from comparing to celebrities, where I feel like it's a lot harder with my friends. Like I'll, or even not people I'm friends with, but oh, this girl was in a grade above me at my school, so I follow her and I see her post on Instagram. I'm like, oh my God, her friend group is so, like, I didn't really have a steady friend group in middle school. I'm like, oh my God, she's a friend group and they're so cool. I'm so jealous. Or, oh my God, they posted such a pretty photo. They went to this museum. Now I want to go to this museum. It was a lot. I found that more, I mean, that's a very bland example, but I found it a lot more like easier to compare to girls who were similar to me. So girls who went to my school, and I'm like, oh my God, they're so pretty and they're so cool. How do they balance school? And they go to all these cool concerts. So that is sort of where I'll feel bad. Or even with my own friends, I'm like, how do they take such good photos?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it almost feels like a diet, like being on Instagram and like, okay, so you're not invited to X party, Y party, Z party. By the way, I didn't have a friend group in middle school either. So whatever, solidarity.
Yeah, I firmly believe, which my parents have said, if people were mean to you in middle school and high school, you're going to be a stronger person. And I make fun of my sister for this because she's always been like Miss Popular, Miss Social. I'm like, we're different because of this. This is like the one reason we're different.
I mean, having a chip on your shoulder and being able to amuse yourself by making jokes about the people around you is like a superpower. You bring up an important point. So Instagram shows you ways in which you're being excluded, but it also kind of in a way makes you feel like you're included because you're scrolling, you're seeing it. And so it's like this like aspartame version of actually being there, where it's like not providing you any nutrition, you're not getting any experience, but you think you're getting the experience of being there. Which is super interesting.
I definitely feel that with stuff like my whole relationship with Instagram is very back and forth, because I'm like, oh my God, I get to connect with these people who I wouldn't talk to that much. And I'm probably just like, in terms of college, I'm probably more in contact with people than I would be from my high school because of Instagram and Snapchat. And I would be if it wasn't for that. So I'm grateful for that. But then at the other hand, there's obviously like, oh, but I'm excluded. So everything with Instagram for me goes really back and forth, because I feel really excluded. But then I love, like with Fashion Week, when the designers live stream their shows so I can watch it. So it's constant. Every issue I have with Instagram, there's always a flip side.
So Elliott, I know, that I get served ads, and that my algorithm, the more I like something, the more I see something. Yeah. But the ads I get are creepy as fuck. I mean, it's like they have invaded my brain.
Oh, me too.
And so I was curious, what kind of, since we have learned that Facebook and Instagram are tracking our every thoughts and that they are targeting young people, which they said they weren't years ago, but they are, what kind of ads do you see that you're like, what the fuck?
Well, this is actually crazy, because I was just in American Advertising, which is a class I'm taking, and we talk about this all the time. And like, how all this body image stuff came from like 3 main images of body image from like the 1920s. And we've talked all about like surveillance and targeting, which it's crazy how my American Advertising class I bring up more than any of my other class. Like I'm in an intro to American politics, an intro to 21st century film is easily the class I discuss most because it impacts everything. But there's definitely creepy ads where I'll be on like the Sephora app and looking at a lipstick, and then the next day the lipstick's like being advertised for me, and I'm like, okay, Like, is my phone tapped? Like, okay. I guess my ads are all like, I don't shop off Instagram, which I think helps in a way, because I know my friends who shop off Instagram say their ads are insane, but I definitely have those experiences where I'll look at a pair of jeans and then 2 days later, there's like a model wearing the pair of jeans on the sponsors page. And I'm like, well, they look good. Like, yeah, I see what you're trying to do here.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was like doing some research for this episode of this show, I was, kind of looking up stuff, and my Instagram ads got more thinspo-y after I was like looking up stuff about body image and Instagram and like what it does to your brain. And I was like, I don't need ads for Kylie Jenner's bad bikinis. Like, why are they showing up on my feed? I found it to be very odd. Okay. So, just to wrap this up, Elliott, what would you like to see Facebook do or Instagram do to make it a safer place for people like you or people even younger than you?
Firstly, I think Instagram for kids is not a good idea. I just think it's setting up a principle that everyone should be on social media from whatever age, which I don't think is true. And I think their claim that it will be ad-free is incorrect, because Instagram is always with ads, even if they're direct or indirect. So firstly, stop that idea. Just don't move forward with it. It's also not going to, like, I just know it's not going to be successful, because it's like, at least for me, when I was like middle school, elementary school, Teen Vogue was always more exciting than like J14, because it was for older kids. And then when I was actually a teenager, Teen Vogue wasn't as exciting. Vogue was exciting because it was older and mature. And so I just think creating Instagram for kids, it's just going to want people to just be like, okay, I'll just get an Instagram instead. So I think it's just like a weird a weird middle thing that doesn't need to exist for 1,000 reasons. What I'd like to see them change is, I don't know, because there's a lot of things that could be changed. I'm just not even sure how, like if there's even a reverse that can happen with a lot of the things. I guess maybe I'm not sure if there's like how they say like this is sponsored, like that little bar that comes up or was like promoted sponsor, like if they could do that, if they could figure out a way when a photo is posted, they could figure out if it was photoshopped. I'm sure they have that technology, and put a banner that says this is photoshopped, this is edited, this has a filter. Because I think then people wouldn't have to search the internet to find the unfiltered, unphotoshopped versions. I think having that disclaimer, like they have, like this is fake news or this is not true about COVID. I think if you're going to do that about our physical health, why not do it about our mental health?
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea. And if you had it to do over again, if you could go back in time and advise your 13-year-old self whether or not to get on Instagram, would you tell yourself to wait a couple years? Or
no.
Are you would have still got on Instagram at 13?
Because when I was younger, a lot of my friends also didn't have it. So it was much more like Pinterest, which I like. And it was just about sharing photos and following people I thought were cool and I thought were posting cool photos. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't, because I think I started Instagram when it was more positive, or maybe just felt more positive to me. And so I think if I got thrown into it at an older age, when it was more intense and focused on body image and beauty and social comparison, then it might have been harder, because it would have been more like jarring. Whereas like I had a slower transition into it.
If you were 13 now, would you, knowing what you know, if you had a sister right now who was 12 or 13, would you think she should get on Instagram?
No, I'd say stick to Pinterest. You don't have to follow any of your friends. You can literally just follow like bloggers, and you can find really cool photos or outfit inspiration or beauty tutorials, or if like you can shop on Pinterest too. Like you can do pretty much all the things. So I would say get a Pinterest. That I still gave that advice to my sister even when it wasn't about Instagram. I just said, like it's really fun to look at photos and like plan things out. And I just think Pinterest is a better way to do it, because you're not like, I probably have like 2 followers and I follow like 1,000 people, and it's like, they don't have likes. It's none of that. Like you're just sharing photos or organizing photos that you like. So my sister has a board of like fall outfits and her and I look at it together. Or when I was doing my dorm room, we had a shared album that was like dorm room ideas. So it's collaborative and it has that aspect and it's fun. And I just think it's healthier. Yet again, it's also photos of models. But if you're getting rid of the social comparison, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, Elliott Stephanopoulos, thank you so much for joining us from your dorm room.
Thank you for having me.